I'm on the outskirts of Nairn on the Morrisshire coast. I'm about to meet Alistair McLean, who's a member of the Rhododendron Society. Now, as you can see, his garden is full of rhododendrons and azaleas, but he's also very keen on the propagation of them, and he's going to share some of those secrets with us. Alistair, tell us a bit about the setup in your greenhouse.
Well, the greenhouse is designed mainly for rhododendron propagation. I've got a fan on permanently to circulate the air, which stops disease and mould.
So that's cold air rather than heat, isn't it?
Yes, but it is set to come on at 2 degrees so that nothing gets frosted.
OK.
But they already have an electric under blanket which gives 70 degrees warmth, and that helps the rhoddies and azaleas. We have this, which can be left unattended. It just mists for whatever length of time you want it to, and it will cut out.
It's a brilliant setup, but what about when it comes to taking the cuttings?
Well, the rhododendron cuttings are usually taken from October to January, preferably earlier rather than later. You have to select not a flower bud, but a growth bud, which is much smaller. And to cut down on transpiration.
So it doesn't lose too much moisture?
Yeah, and also so that they're not too close together, you massacre the leaves.
Now, what I noticed is that cutting itself, you seem to have taken a little bit off,
yes,
just above the node.
With a knife, we wound it both sides above the node and then put it into this gel, which is a mixture of fungicide and growth hormone. And then you would put it in a tray like this, which has got a mixture 50-50 of peat and perlite. And
so that damage is what, to encourage a few more roots?
Yeah, that's where the new roots will come from, rather than just the bottom. So
I have to say that's a new one on me.
Well, you get more roots for your money if you do that.
Brilliant. OK, so the next stage really is hardening those off and then going to the nursery bed.
Exactly.
Should we go and have a look?
We'll do that. Carol, do come into my nursery area.
Well, it's a good use of space, isn't it, Alistair? Because you've got all your fruit as well, beautifully trained.
Well, this is where we take the hardened off rhododendrons and pot them on, and you'll see they're all separated. The space is needed because, as you can see, the rhododendrons have to be spaced out as they grow, because if rhododendrons touch each other or in the garden touch another plant, they will stop growing. And I've got one like that in the garden with a hellebore stopping a rhoddy growing.
So a tip is, when you plant it, make sure you give it plenty of space.
Think ahead and leave plenty of space, yes.
OK, well, saying thinking ahead, the plants here, presumably patience is a virtue, because it must take quite a few years before they flower.
Indeed, these ones have been 10 years growing on and they still haven't flowered. So I can't give them to anybody because we don't know what the flower colour or the flower size might be.
OK, but what about these beauties here?
Well, they were all good luck because they're multiple American rhododendron crosses, and you don't know, again, what the colour will be, but they've come out nicely. This one was sown as seed in 2011, so you've got to have patience.
I think that's an absolute beauty.
Yeah.
Really nice. Have you got a spot for that in your garden?
I'm thinking about it.
But let's go and have a look at your garden, the fruits of your labours.
If you can find a space for it, I'll be delighted.
Wow. I can see what you mean about trying to find a space in the garden. And what colour here. That is gorgeous, Alistair.
Well, that's Bow Bells, which does that every year, and beside it the white one is Dora Amateus as contrast. Sometimes it gets frosted and spoils the contrast, but it's looking fine this year.
It's looking lovely this year, a really nice combination. Now, you're quite a believer of using the bark.
Yes, I think composted bark, the finer stuff, is the ideal mulch. It gives insulation, but also it forms a seed bed for other woodland plants like trilliums.
Yeah, so they love it too.
Yeah.
What about when you're planting a rhododendron?
Well, you don't plant too deep. They're not going to ever have deep roots. but I'd put in some bone meal at the bottom, a bit of earth, mycorrhiza, and the mycorrhiza round the rhododendron root, and in it goes. The bark around it, but most of all, keep it watered.
Really important.
All season. In fact, most rhododendrons you should put a bucket of water on once a week if it's dry.
And this is the result that you get.
Yes, that's Gilbert Muller. It's been there a good few years now, but 11 years old, but it was worth waiting for. 11 years since I planted the seed.
Well, you've got all of these labelled. Do you have a plan too?
I have a plan of every roddy in the front, which adds up at the moment to 117.
Well, Alistair, I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed looking around your garden, and just thank you very much for showing me around.
Well, thank you and your team for coming. It's been a great pleasure.